on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You like my oxygen. Make it seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in. From the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up. Break you in and break you out. In the end, we're gonna make it.
Hi, Dionna. Welcome back to another edition of All Time High. We are here to talk about some of the things that Jerome Powell said yesterday. Did you check that out by chance?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a little bit about it, and I haven't seen exactly, but I know it's been a hot topic of discussion. So what are your thoughts?
Well, every time that he speaks, it's like the world holds its breath because they're waiting to see what he does for the stock market. Are we going to increase interest rates? Are we going to hold? And in his role, in his capacity with the Federal Reserve, he kind of sets the tone for investments. Yep. And there are implications to huge dynamics. It influences elections. If people are happy, they vote with their wallets. If people are unhappy, they vote with their wallets. It also influences things like cryptocurrency. And so one enterprising reporter yesterday asked this question. Are you ready to check it out?
Let's hear it.
All right.
Reporter.
Now, it seems like 2 minutes isn't worth it, but you got to wait and stick with it to the very end. After the question and the answer, we're going to ask for your opinion, and then I'm going to offer up some insight as well. Here we go.
To study the implications of the CBDC, can you give us any clarity on what the Fed is doing right now on a digital dollar?
Sure. So I think we've been pretty transparent on this, but I'll try harder. So we are not getting ready to, we haven't come to a conclusion that we should propose or anything like that, that Congress consider legislation to authorize a digital dollar. And it would take legislation by Congress signed by the president to give us the ability to do what we think of as a CBDC, which is really a retail CBDC with the public of it. So we're just a long, long way from that. What we are doing, and I think what every major central bank is doing, is we're trying to stay in the frontiers of what's going on in digital finance. And it has many, many different areas. You know, it has applications in wholesale finance, in the payment system. And so we to serve the public, these issues have become very front burner in the last 5 or 6 years. We need to be knowledgeable about all that. So we actually do have people trying to understand things that are, but it's wrong to say that we're working on a CBDC and then we've secretly got a lab here where we've got one and we're just going to spring it on Congress at the right moment. We don't. I haven't at all in my own mind made a decision that I think this is something the U.S. should be doing. I just think it's something we need to understand, and we do have people who are keeping up with that as part of the broader payments landscape. That's how I would characterize it.
Interesting.
Well, there.
Yeah, interesting. I kind of feel like they have been working on it. Like, I feel like I know a few working groups that have been testing it out and trying to figure out how we would roll out a CBDC. Maybe that's not a Fed specific task, but I know that we have been working on it. I also think it's interesting how long you think they could really put off before this becomes a thing. It's not going anywhere. So if it's the limitations of the technology that's saying, hey, we couldn't necessarily service all these people, I can understand the hesitation. But what is the point where they actually say, okay, first off, we can't print cash fast enough, as the U.S. has been doing. So I feel like CBDCs is the perfect, albeit killer to us, but perfect for them to be able to print more money
to launch. Yeah.
It's not a light choice. It comes with a lot of risk. It comes with a lot of rewards. Honestly, I personally am a little happy to hear that they're putting it off, especially the more we keep talking about, these social, the social scores.
Social scoring, yeah.
Other countries. Yeah. So fine with me. If you want to put it off for a minute while you guys figure out how to get your ducks in a row, that's great. Other countries are doing this though, and may end up beating us to the punch. And then what does that do to the value of the dollar?
So yeah, that is the thing. They are working on it. So at that moment, I realized he was being disingenuous.
Yeah.
And it isn't that he doesn't feel that way or that he doesn't believe that, but he realizes and he's been good at it for a long time. His communication path is kind of above retail.
Yeah.
And so it's easy for him to kind of go to the executive level and say, I don't really know. And we haven't really been working on it. And there isn't a working group. But let me tell you something. Because of the implications to finance, because of the implications to the people, and because of the competitive implications through other countries, you damn well know they're working on it.
Yeah, they better be. They better be.
And so, ironically, I believe because of the executive level consideration set here, this is where I lean into some other event is a way to shoehorn people into this particular aspect. And you noted what he said. He said it's got to be something that's signed off by Congress or by the president. If not, he kind of implied both.
Yeah.
But you and I know that you can issue executive orders that the power of the president in times of great need could cause this to be an option or a requirement for people to have.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, not to play the political side of either way. Let's just take for a second, if Trump gets into office, of all the people in the world who would not want to give government control of your finances, I think that that's the one man who has already seen how much they're willing to push to get to your money. And so therefore, I don't see him being supportive of a CBDC. Now,
no, he's been on record and said that he hasn't. And I think he was greatly influenced by Vivek, who articulated this quite effectively of what surveillance state could occur if a CBDC were to be implemented. And so Trump came out and said, subsequent to a conversation with him, right before Vivek opted to move out of the race.
Yeah.
And then within days, if not hours, Trump was talking about, oh no, we're not doing the CBDC under my watch.
Yeah. Yeah, he's actually made that statement before. And I just think that, like I said, with everything going on, with all of his legal battles, with all of his challenges, someone who's experienced the government's reach when it exceeds what the law allows, I think becomes extremely skeptical and therefore preventative and looking out for the people, because he doesn't want them to become a victim the way he has been. Right, wrong, indifferent, not taking sides, not saying one way or the street or the other. I'm just saying from a personal perspective, I don't see him moving forward with it. Biden, on the other hand, who knows? If we're waiting for Congress to push it through, geez, it might be forever. I mean, unless they say the only way we could provide aid for Ukraine is through a CBDC, then I imagine they would push it through pretty quickly. But if it's not on a train like that, I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Well, if you get a unified house, you could have that happen more quickly than not. If you take a look and think about, okay, we're a few senators away from having a unified Democratic Party across the board, and that could happen. So there's that play, which
or Republican.
But I'm going to go back to the election year dynamic, where it's very tenuous at best, and I think that's a good design. It's not a bug; it's a feature of the system that we have put in place. But down that same path, you look at it and you go, what if there were a calamity? What if there were a pandemic? What if a cyber pandemic were to occur and we need to level the playing field and keep the status for the dollar as the world reserve currency? Yeah. What would they be willing to do? And would the word almost anything fit here? I would think so. And go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to shift us over to a video, because even though this seems like it's brand new, and he made it seem like, a great question, I thought of it a minute ago. There's some videos that I have from 3 years old now, where this topic seems like it was covered yesterday for the first time, the way it popped up in the media, mainstream media, the way it was answered by Powell, the innocent climb of, we'll be looking into it. No. I'm going to play this video for us and want to get your take on it. It's about halfway through. And as I often do, I'm going to play this faster.
Yeah, we appreciate your respect for our time.
You got it. Here we go. I picked the right spot too. Check it out.
All have a few features that make them useful, but the hope is that publicly available CBDCs would have all these desirable characteristics. Unlike your savings in a commercial bank, which rely on the bank's promise to fulfill, CBDCs are recognized by law and backed by the power of the central bank, which cannot go bankrupt. For example, if a commercial bank collapses, part of your savings could potentially be wiped out. But this wouldn't be the case for CBDCs, which could be as trusted as cash, as convenient as a payment app, yet also benefit from the same blockchain technology which underpins cryptocurrencies. And just like cash, CBDCs could be distributed through commercial banks, avoiding too much disruption to the financial system, or the central bank having to deal directly with many millions of citizens and businesses.
Think of banknotes, which are the closest equivalent to some.
I've seen that video before. That's kind of funny that you pulled it up.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Right, but it's got the nice visual.
Yep.
Got the nice.
What do you think the hesitation is? Why do you think the U.S. isn't embracing it yet?
I think they're trying to wait until there's a moment of need, either one that's for real or one that they create or that another country creates. So it's easier to be patriotic in an effort to increase the adoption levels.
Yeah.
If I felt like I was competing with another country that started with a C, right, to make America better, I would go down that path. Or if there were a cyber pandemic where all the systems in the banking and infrastructure were being punished through a foreign adversary who had intercepted banking, and so to make this a better, cleaner system, would I opt in? Yeah, I would. I'd be like, okay, it's the enemy we don't know that's more dangerous than the enemy we do know. And so as a result, I'm willing to participate more actively. And instead of an implementation that secures, 10% of people, all of a sudden you're looking at 80 or 90%. And I just think the playbook, again, I'm not for or against. I know there's people that have all had horrific experiences, some that have said great experiences with a jab. I don't even want to comment on it, but just watching that playbook play out, I could see a situation like this where it's like, be sure to get your CBDC online application completed. It now allows for this, next year at this time, when you file your taxes, you'll get a 10% reduction in your tax return.
Yeah, it was interesting when you were just talking about that. I was thinking, what obviously we just haven't found a way for it to benefit us, right? So if it's something that we know is going to greatly benefit us, you don't have to argue with us about it. Like the banks will just do it. So why are the banks so hesitant? Yes, understood. It's a peer-to-peer lending system. Don't need that mediary. So if a CBDC were to be issued and the banks were to have them, think about how much that actually changes the money dynamic though, because right now I have my ledger when it comes to my bank. The ledger says, I've got $1,000 in there, but I don't really have the $1,000. The bank has the $1,000. That number in my account is not a real number, right? It doesn't actually represent the value one for one that's there, because that money the bank is loaned off, it's somewhere else. It's doing something else on behalf of the bank. When I want to go get my money, I can take my money out, but it's not a true representation of what's sitting there in the account physically. When you move over to a CBDC, that is the representation, because the second the bank needed to take that money out in order to play with it, you would remove it from my account. So you have an entire digital, like a banking system or a bookkeeping system that would have to be changed because the CBDC does not serve the interest of the bank. So it's an interesting perspective. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
So let's play a numbers game, right? Because the perceptions and reality of it all, I'm not asking for your own personal evaluation of how good you are with numbers, but how do your friends and relatives rate you on that number scale? What do they give you in your mind? Like, how do they see you numerically, analytically, your capabilities? What do you think?
My capabilities on a number scale?
Yes. On a scale of 1 to 10, you would say your friends and family would rate you a what?
8?
Yeah. My nickname is Rain Man, right? Because I'm always looking at the numbers and things like that. So and I think that's meant in a complimentary way. Great movie, Oscar nominations, probably won. I think Dustin Hoffman did win the Oscar for that. Maybe not, but certainly was nominated. When you look back, I'm seeing this, and most of the bankers are in an environment where they're good with numbers. They understand the advantageous position that they're in, and that technology for the majority of our lifetimes has been a disruptor. It has been the thing that has changed the thing. Yeah. So they know, as the incumbent, the further off that the banking institutions, the JP Morgans, even the Chases, the Visas, the MasterCards, the Amexes can delay this, the better off they are. So they're in no rush for this transition to occur. And other countries are catching up. Other countries, technologically speaking, are moving past, because as you and I often discuss, the capability of the technology already exists. It's implementation that's at issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, when you think about why would other countries implement it and not us, when you think about those other countries, they're not free countries. They don't believe in freedoms. They don't believe in independence. They don't believe in the sovereign state. And so, they don't have as much to lose by implementing it. In fact, they have even more to gain because of what they're able to do with control over their people. And so for those countries, it makes sense. But thank God we live in America sometimes.
Well, I'm gonna, you and I are both from Texas, and we're seeing what's playing, again, not to be political, but we're seeing what's playing out at the border, where the state rights, and we are kind of turning into this system where the states are making decisions about a lot of different dynamics. Could you see a day where the states would make the determination on the legality of CBDCs?
No. I mean, I think it's a federal thing, right? Unless states are issuing money themselves. I mean, you might have like regional banks that could go in and support it. But when you start getting into a federal level, I don't see states being able to take that individual stance. I see them. I mean, even right now, even Texas, even winning the Supreme Court saying that they were allowed to do some kind of border thing, the government came in and squashed it and said, no, you don't have these are federal laws. It doesn't apply to you. You can't do it. And now it's back in the courts. And so I think you would just see that back and forth, as to whether to implement it or not. Plus, how disruptive would it be if one state does it and the rest of the country does not? What's the infrastructure that has to go in to support that particular state? So,
well, let's talk about that for a second. And not to be argumentative, but just to debate it.
Yeah.
We talked about Binance US and the money transmitter license. They're able to get that in, let's say 40, 45 states. One of the states where they don't have a money transmitter license, and this is Binance US, which is, kind of like the whole TikTok thing, US, different dynamic. But you got Binance US, doesn't have a money transmitter license in Texas. So guess what? Not working. And you can't use the VPN like you once could use the VPN.
Yeah. Interesting that Texas was the place that that said no, considering Governor Abbott is so pro Bitcoin, which to me, so when China, I said it. I didn't.
You said it. Show over. Cancel Christmas.
God, every time, every single.
We're good. I think you and I are way past that. We are breaking through the paradigm of the algorithm that YouTube provides. It's okay, YouTube. We love you anyway.
Previous years, all the Bitcoin miners were shut out of the country where they were mostly mining.
Yeah.
Governor Abbott opened the doors and said, come to Texas, because he recognized an opportunity for Texas to make money off of crypto. And so until you have other states seeing that, or the federal government seeing that, they're just not going to make favorable laws and rules because there's nothing to gain off of it. So really, at the end of the day, when they know that they can game and make a lot of money off of it, we'll see it implemented.
So down that path, right, there's either enough people or there's enough money. But are CBDCs really crypto, or is CBDC like crypto gone bad?
No, so I love they said the CBDC is not a stable dollar because it is the dollar. So therefore you don't have to have a one-to-one. Like Tether has to have a one-to-one. They say that this coin is based off of this dollar and therefore it's pegged. You don't have that with the CBDC. And so you don't have to have that cash reserve. It will be just as functional as a dollar. And in that way, you think probably a little more scary, especially considering the infrastructure attacks we've already been having with cyber stuff, right? So AT&T not too long ago got shut down. They say it was an internal thing. I'm saying I don't think so. Imagine now if we actually had our money tied to the CBDC and we were vulnerable to those kind of attacks, it could be kind of scary for America.
Oh, no, that's certainly one of the things. I think that was a pandemic warm-up. Cyber pandemic warm-up was the AT&T rug pull. And nobody, the crazy thing, nobody really took responsibility. Nobody came out and said, oh, this was the issue. Everybody lost phone service for a day. And now, 24 hours later, everything got repaired and everybody's like, okay, but do we really know? Do we know what, let's just say the utilities went down, and I'm talking about gas or water or electrical, because the IT infrastructure wasn't in place. Is there anybody really who knows what happened or how to fix it, or even if what happened? And so I go down that path with AT&T. It wasn't water, but it was the currency that we communicate with. And what if the banks went down, or they said that, again, I think I'm looking for, oh boy, I hate to be so conspiracy theorist, but it's easier to align if there's a pandemic that occurs with an institution like an AT&T or any of the banks, any of the big banks, that occurs because of another country.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
watch people jump on board that.
Yeah, I would. I did. AT&T put out a statement and said it was something to do with their infrastructure, but it's also being invested by Homeland Security. So I don't know the last time I saw a utilities company get invested by Homeland Security. So it'll be interesting to see. I doubt they'll ever tell us. It's not like they're going to say, hey, the C word got us,
No, there's less accountability there. Now there's more accountability like in the NBA than here. They put a report out at the end of every game with the last 2 minutes, and they judge the accuracy of the calls that the referees made.
Yeah.
Because what's happening with referees in the NBA is one of them did illegal gambling. And so as it gets closer to illegal gambling, they realize the integrity of the game was at risk. And so all these financial influencers that are so close to a potentially corrupt government drive activity on the edges. And so the willingness for somebody to do something that can provide generational wealth to them from a technological perspective is a lot less risky. Here's my other take than what happened with the pandemic when truly lives were at stake.
Yeah.
We're just going to end up in a different level of isolation in my dystopian future. I don't want to predict it.
Nope.
I'm not predicting it. I am just depicting the present at a larger scale. Like all these things, these wheels are in motion. Yeah. The momentum is starting to play. And that's why I think Chairman Powell's comments yesterday, although they appear innocent and naive, I think they were ironically rather calculated.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Everything he does is calculated. So I don't for a second believe what he said at all.
Yeah. All the world's a stage. Dionna, thanks for sharing the stage with me today. It's been another great episode on All Time High. Look forward to seeing you on the next edition.
Bye.
You on my mind a lot. Don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got